The sun dipped low over East Hollow as the evening breeze picked up, rustling trees along the quiet suburban sidewalk. The streets were calm, too calm maybe. At the corner of 8th and Langford, a black SUV idled, engine purring like a patient predator. Inside sat Officer Mitchell Crane, eyes locked on a young black man walking alone, hands in the pockets of his gray hoodie. Nothing unusual, no reported crime, but something about the man's pace, unhurried, calm, confident, rubbed Crane the wrong way. He tapped his fingers on the steering wheel, debating. No bags, no phone out, no fear. Not what he expected in this neighborhood. With a flick of his thumb, he hit the lights and pulled the car around. Evening, Crane said as he stepped out of the cruiser. Mind telling me what you're doing around here? The man turned slowly, polite, but unsurprised. Just walking. Walking where? Does it matter? Crane frowned. It does if I say it does. Within 2 minutes, the situation escalated. The young man, calm but firm, refused to give unnecessary details. He didn't resist. He didn't run. Yet he was pushed against the hood, wrists cuffed tightly. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, phones in hand, but no one stepped out. They watched in silence as the young man was led into the cruiser without ever being told why. His name was Malik Bennett, and in less than 24 hours the entire city would know it. Malik wasn't just anyone. He was the only son of Jonathan Bennett, billionaire tech investor, philanthropist, and founder of the largest social impact foundation in the state. But Malik didn't live behind gated walls. He'd chosen to disappear from headlines years ago, trading designer suits for community work and anonymity. He wore plain clothes, moved without bodyguards, and volunteered at youth centers under a different last name. He didn't flaunt privilege. He used it quietly to lift others. But none of that mattered the moment he was profiled. In the back of the squad car, Malik said nothing. He stared out the window, not angry, just tired. Tired of this happening. Tired of knowing it wouldn't have happened if his skin had been lighter. Tired of staying silent. But this time, he knew, it wouldn't be buried. The camera in Crane's cruiser had caught everything. The neighborhood had caught everything. And more importantly, someone was already watching. 3 miles away in a sleek office lit only by the glow of monitors, a woman named Deja Marlowe leaned forward in her chair. She rewound the footage. Again and again, her jaw tightened with every playback. She knew Malik. She knew his heart, his mission. And she knew this wasn't the first time something like this had happened to someone who looked like him. But this time, it was Malik. She picked up the phone. "Give me the firm. Now." Back at the precinct, Officer Crane processed Malik without a word of apology. No ID match. No crime reported. No explanation given. He simply said, "Hold him for questioning." As the clock ticked, murmurs started to grow. The front desk clerk whispered Malik's name to a colleague. One of them Googled it, and when they saw what popped up, their eyes went wide. Wait, this is the Jonathan Bennett's son. Within an hour, half the department knew. Within 2, someone from the mayor's office called, and by morning, every major news outlet had the story. But that was just the beginning. As media vans flooded East Hollow and headlines demanded accountability, the deeper truth began to surface. Malik hadn't just been taking a stroll. He had been investigating something, quietly, carefully, for weeks. He'd been working undercover in that very neighborhood, tracking illegal evictions, falsified citations, and racially targeted police stops. His arrest wasn't just a mistake. It threatened to unravel everything he'd been trying to expose. And now that spotlight was on. Crane, meanwhile, doubled down. He was acting suspicious, he told reporters. I had probable cause. But video evidence told a different story. Civil rights lawyers released the footage publicly, frame by frame. Social media exploded. Hashtags like #JusticeForMalik and #WrongfullyJudged trended overnight. Protesters gathered outside the precinct. Demands for disciplinary action came from city council, celebrities, and even other officers. Yet Malik stayed quiet. No interviews, no statements. He was biding his time. What no one realized was that his silence was strategic. He didn't want a headline. He wanted justice, not just for himself, but for the countless people who didn't have the means to speak up. People like Tasha Bell, a single mother evicted from her apartment after a noise complaint she never made. Or Deshaun Carter, stopped 3 times in 1 week just for driving the wrong car in the wrong zip code. Malik had all their names, and he had evidence. But now, thanks to his arrests, so did the world. The real twist? Jonathan Bennett, Malik's father, wasn't furious about the arrest. He was proud. Proud that his son had gone where even the foundation couldn't reach, that he'd risked comfort for change. Together, they decided to release a statement. But it wouldn't be a press conference. It would be something much bigger, something no one expected. And just as the world began to settle, thinking the story was about an unjust arrest and a surprising identity, something new surfaced. A second officer's body cam footage. Unreleased, unedited. And it didn't just show the arrest, it showed what came before. That footage changed everything. But before the public could process it, the video vanished. Scrubbed. Deleted. Except, not for long. Because Malik? He wasn't done yet. The file Officer Crane had submitted disappeared from the system without explanation. Not a trace. The department claimed a technical issue, but Malik knew better. That second camera, attached to the rookie officer who had stood silently during the arrest, had caught more than just the confrontation. It had captured the conversation before the lights went on, before the cuffs came out. And if Malik remembered correctly, it might have even recorded Crane saying, "They all act innocent until they run." That footage wasn't lost. It had been buried. Malik sat alone in his small apartment, staring at a corkboard filled with pinned articles, notes, and a map of East Hollow. Strings connected locations across the board, each one tied to a person affected by quiet injustices no one talked about. People like Luis Alvarez, a teenager stopped 5 times in 1 month just walking home from work. Or Ms. Jenny Rhodes, an elderly woman ticketed so many times for imaginary code violations that she lost her home. The pattern wasn't just coincidence, it was targeted, and the officer names kept circling back to one cluster, including Mitchell Crane's. Deja arrived without knocking, holding a folder in one hand and her phone in the other. "You were right," she said, setting the folder on the table. The department flagged the rookie's footage for internal review, but get this? The file's encrypted and access restricted. Even the union's asking questions. Malik scanned the documents. His jaw clenched. They know it'll destroy him. It's not just Crane. It's the whole system protecting itself. Worse, Deja said quietly, "Someone else is watching you now." Malik looked up. She turned her phone and showed him a picture snapped just hours ago. Malik walking out of the youth center. In the background, a man sat in a black sedan, camera pointed directly at him. Zoomed in, the face looked vaguely familiar. Not a journalist, not a neighbor. Someone else entirely. Malik knew this was no longer about his arrest. That was the surface level spark. But beneath it, something much darker was playing out. Because Malik had been getting too close. Closer than he realized, to something that others had tried to keep buried. He thought back to his initial reason for coming to East Hollow. A young man named Amr had sent an anonymous tip months ago, claiming officers were intentionally falsifying reports to push families out of rent-controlled properties. Malik had tracked Amr's name to a juvenile record, and then nothing. The boy had vanished. No school record, no job, not even a missing persons report. Just gone. And the last officer Amr had contact with, Mitchell Crane. It was no longer just about clearing his own name. It was about finding out what happened to Amir, and why none of it ever made it to the news. Meanwhile, the city buzzed with tension. Malik's name was all over social media and headlines in whispered conversations at coffee shops. But he still hadn't spoken publicly, and people wanted answers. Deja had arranged a sit-down interview, live, one shot, no edits. But Malik hesitated. I don't want this to become about just me, he told her. But it is about you, she replied. Because if someone like you can be targeted, cuffed, silenced, then what happens to the people without your name, your resources, your reach? He nodded slowly. She was right. Still, something gnawed at him. That man in the black car, the vanished footage, the silence from the rookie officer who had conveniently gone on leave the day after the arrest. There was a bigger game being played, and Malik wasn't sure yet who was pulling the strings. That night, Malik couldn't sleep. His mind kept drifting to memories of his father, Jonathan Bennett, a man who built an empire but always taught his son one thing: use what you have to protect those who don't. Malik had taken that lesson to heart. But what if it wasn't enough? At 3 a.m. he got a message. We have the footage. Meet us alone. No sender. No trace. Just coordinates near the edge of the city. Deja tried to talk him out of going. It's bait, she warned. They're trying to scare you off, or worse. I need to know, Malik said. If that footage still exists, I can't walk away. He went alone, a small camera pinned under his jacket, every step calculated. The location was an abandoned car wash, long shuttered and forgotten by the city. A single light buzzed above the entrance. Inside, a voice echoed from the shadows. You don't know how deep this goes. Malik squinted. A figure stepped forward. It was the rookie officer. Younger than Malik remembered, eyes tired, hands shaking slightly. They told me to turn the body cam off, the officer said. But I didn't, and now they're after me too. He handed over a flash drive. This has everything. Malik reached for it, but before he could speak, the officer continued. There's more, he said, voice barely above a whisper. Amir? He's alive, but he's hiding. He saw something that links all of this. Crane's just a pawn. And just like that, tires screeched outside. Headlights, engines, someone had followed. Malik grabbed the drive and ran, ducking out through the back, scaling a fence, heart pounding as shadows closed in. He didn't stop until he reached a safe house 2 miles away. There, breath ragged, he slid the flash drive into his laptop. The screen flickered, a video loaded. It wasn't just footage of his arrest, it was a compilation. Dozens of clips, stops, threats, fabricated reports. Voices saying things they thought would never be heard. Crane was only one of many. And at the end of the video, one clip stood out. It was Amir, looking into the camera, voice clear. If you're seeing this, they haven't found me yet. But they will. Please, don't let them bury this. Malik leaned back, pulse racing. Everything was coming into focus now. This wasn't just about one arrest. It was about a network, a machine, a long-running operation that had gone unchecked for years. He stared at the laptop screen, jaw tight, mind racing. It was time. But first, he needed to find Amir. And then the world would finally hear everything. Malik didn't sleep for 2 days. He watched the footage over and over, taking notes, organizing clips, cross-referencing names, dates, and badge numbers. The deeper he went, the darker it got. There were patterns, specific neighborhoods, same set of officers rotating beats, reports that contradicted the video evidence. And there was one name that kept appearing in the background, never directly involved, but always present: Captain Howard Vicks. A decorated veteran in the force, loved by the media, often quoted about law and order. But in the footage, his shadow loomed silently, showing up just after questionable arrests or at properties that were later bought by shell companies. Malik began putting the puzzle together. It wasn't just racism or corruption. It was profit. Entire blocks of vulnerable communities were being cleared out under the guise of criminal activity, only for that land to be sold off at double or triple its value. And who were the buyers? Development firms linked to Vic's brother-in-law. The blueprint wasn't new, but the execution was chilling in its precision. and Malik had just become the biggest threat to it all. Deja dug deeper too. She met with a woman named Gloria who used to work in the city zoning department. Gloria claimed she'd been let go after questioning a sudden surge in emergency condemnations, homes being labeled unsafe after minor infractions, tenants getting no warning before bulldozers showed up, and every time, the same pattern, an arrest or complaint made weeks before that set the stage for removal. Malik's arrest, then, wasn't random. It was meant to send a message, silence him before he could find what they were trying to hide. Meanwhile, the city buzzed with split opinions. Some called Malik a hero, a whistleblower exposing injustice. Others claimed he was stirring unrest. News outlets began spinning angles, some defending Officer Crane, others demanding his badge. But no one talked about Amir. His name was scrubbed from school records, online listings, even his social media pages. It was as if someone had erased him from existence. Malik couldn't shake the weight of responsibility. He wasn't just fighting for himself now. He was fighting for every person whose voice had been silenced. For Amir, for the mothers and fathers evicted in the middle of the night, for kids growing up thinking this was normal. But time was running out. He felt it closing in. Surveillance cars were getting closer. Deja's phone had been hacked, and someone tried breaking into his apartment. The pressure wasn't just real, it was tightening. He knew he couldn't go at it alone anymore. That's when he called Marcus Wynn, a prominent civil rights attorney known for his blunt style and zero fear. Marcus arrived the next day, reviewed the footage, and simply said, "We go public. All of it. But we build it right, no leaks, no spin, just truth." They began assembling a case, a timeline, a narrative that could be presented not just to the media, but in court. They planned a live-stream press conference. No media intermediaries. Just raw, direct truth. But one piece was still missing. Amir. And if Amir was alive, as the rookie claimed, then he was the key to confirming everything. They reached out through encrypted channels, anonymous forums, even hired an ex-FBI tracker who owed Marcus a favor. After 5 tense days, a ping came back from a rural property 2 hours outside the city. A cabin rented under a fake name with a security system too sophisticated for any average person. They took a chance and drove out together, Malik and Marcus. No cops, no press. The drive was quiet. Malik kept staring out the window, thinking about the moment Amir's face had appeared on his screen. That scared but determined look. A boy forced into hiding because adults chose silence over justice. When they arrived, the cabin was dark. No movement. Malik stepped out slowly, hands visible, calling Amir's name gently. A soft voice responded from inside. "You brought someone." "Yes," Malik said. "But he's here to help. We're not here to expose you. We're here to end what they started." The door creaked open. Amir looked older than he should have, eyes worn with fear, but he smiled faintly when he saw Malik. "I knew you'd find me," he said. Inside, Amir explained everything. He had been part of a youth mentorship program where officers like Crane were assigned to at-risk teens. But instead of guiding them, some officers used the program to gather intel on families, habits, routines. They used the boys as bait, then later as justifications for raids. Amir had once overheard a conversation between Crane and Vix. They talked about pushing people out and making room for progress. When Amir confronted Crane, things turned ugly. A week later, his home was raided. His mother arrested on false charges. That's when he fled. Malik recorded everything. With Amir's statement, the footage, and the property records, they had a complete story. A story the city wouldn't be able to ignore. But just as they were preparing to leave, Marcus got a call. "Malik," he said, lowering the phone slowly, "there's been a leak. Someone released edited footage of your arrest. They're trying to spin it, make it look like you were resisting." Malik froze. Who leaked it? They're saying it came from inside the department, but someone helped it go viral. And that's when it clicked. Malik remembered the man in the black car, the one who had been watching him. He wasn't just surveillance. He was the one shaping the narrative from behind the scenes. There was a fourth layer to this. someone in PR, media, or politics orchestrating the public's opinion to keep the machine running. Malik was fighting the cops, the corrupt developers, and now a hidden hand manipulating the story itself. Back in the city, people were growing restless. Protesters lined the streets, supporters rallied online, but lies traveled faster than truth, and time was running out. Malik and Marcus needed to act fast, but smarter. They drove back in silence, a new plan forming, one final card to play. But they had no idea that someone else was waiting for them when they got home. Watching, listening, and ready to strike before the truth reached the world. By the time Malik and Marcus pulled up outside his apartment, the city felt different, quieter, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that hums before a storm. News trucks were parked a block away, not moving, just waiting. Windows in the building across the street seemed too open, shadows too still. Marcus noticed it first. "We're being watched," he said, not even looking at Malik, just scanning. "They know we found Amir." Inside Malik's place, the lights didn't work. Power was out, or cut. He reached for his phone, but there was no signal. Even the backup hotspot was down. Marcus locked the door behind them and pulled the curtains. "We're not safe here anymore. They're done playing defense." Malik sat at the edge of the couch, heart pounding. The video, Amir's confession, the property links, all of it was backed up on encrypted drives, but without a secure connection, they couldn't get it out. And if they tried to leave now, there was no telling who was waiting. The system was cornering them, turning the narrative with every passing minute. Then came the knock. 3 sharp taps, not rushed, not aggressive, calculated. Marcus moved quietly toward the door. "Don't open it," Malik whispered, but Marcus signaled for silence and slowly peeked through the peephole. Then he stepped back, confused. "It's Crane." Malik's stomach dropped. "Alone?" Marcus nodded, eyes narrowing. Crane stood in the hallway, hands visible, no weapon drawn. Just a grim look on his face. Malik opened the door cautiously. "What do you want?" "I'm not here to arrest anyone," Crane said. "I'm here to tell you you're in deeper than you know." Marcus didn't move from the wall. "You've got 2 minutes." Crane looked tired, beaten down, like someone who had just realized they were a pawn in a game too big to understand. "You think Vix is behind this? He's just the middle. There's a network. Lawyers, developers, media heads. They use us, cops on the ground, to make moves they don't want traced. I did what I was told, until Amir." Malik stepped forward. "So you knew?" "I didn't know who the kid was until afterward. That's why I tried to find him. Not to silence him. To get him out. But by the time I figured it out, he was already gone. And now they're cleaning up, starting with you." Crane pulled out a flash drive and slid it across the table. "It's a backup. From inside Vic's office. Audio files. Emails. There's stuff in there that connects names you've never heard of. But they pull strings at the highest levels. If you go public with just what you have, they'll spin it. You'll be another activist who snapped. But this makes it undeniable." Before Malik could respond, a loud thud shook the building. Marcus looked up. "We've got company." Crane cursed under his breath. "I bought you maybe 15 minutes. After that, I'm gone." With no time to waste, they scrambled. Marcus plugged the flash drive into a secure laptop. Encrypted, but with Crane's codes, it unlocked fast. Dozens of files, each more disturbing than the last. Voice memos between developers and officers discussing removal strategies, payments under shell corporations, conversations about Malik by name. "Make sure the rich kid doesn't get to play hero," one message said. "His family won't even realize he's gone." Malik froze. They were planning something worse. Marcus nodded. "They still are." The plan became clear. Upload everything. Get it to public eyes before the door came crashing down. But as Marcus worked through the firewalls, the internet stayed dark. It wasn't just a local block. It was a targeted signal jam. They weren't supposed to get this far. Then Deja called. She made it out of the city. Found a safe location with a live uplink. Send me everything now, she said breathlessly. I'll handle the rest. But before Marcus could begin the transfer, the laptop screen flickered, then blacked out. No, Malik whispered. No, don't do this. Marcus tried rebooting. Nothing. The flash drive was still connected, but it was fried. They knew, he muttered. They've got countermeasures built into the files. Then came the second knock. Not gentle this time, heavy, relentless. Crane stepped toward the window, peered through the blinds. It's not police. It's private contractors, unmarked vehicles, tactical gear. Malik's pulse raced. This wasn't just an intimidation tactic anymore. They were officially trying to erase him. The story. The truth. Crane pulled a sidearm. You've got one option. You go now. Out the fire escape. Get to Deja. I'll hold them. Malik stared at him. Why help now? Crane's voice cracked. Because I let fear make me someone I'm ashamed of. And I've got a daughter your age. If she were in your shoes, I'd pray someone stood up for her. They didn't argue. Marcus grabbed the backup SSD. The only copy left. Malik stuffed it into his jacket. Crane opened the window and motioned for them to go. As they climbed out into the cold night air, the city below felt more alive than ever. Sirens in the distance, helicopters in the sky. But nothing mattered now except one thing, getting the truth out before they were silenced. Behind them, the door splintered. Inside, shouts rang out. But Malik didn't look back. He was running toward the climax of everything, toward justice or destruction. And someone, somewhere in the shadows, was watching it all unfold. The final move had just begun. They raced down the fire escape 2 steps at a time, the metal groaning beneath their weight. Malik's breath came in short, controlled bursts, his hand clenched tightly around the SSD in his jacket pocket. The chill in the night air bit at his skin, but adrenaline kept him moving. Marcus was just ahead, leading the way through the alleyways, staying in the shadows. Every sound felt louder than it should have been, every echo, every car door slamming in the distance. They didn't know who else might be watching. And that's when Malik's phone buzzed. No signal. That made no sense. It was dead earlier. But now suddenly, one message came through. Just one. I warned you not to trust him. You're playing into his hands. The number was unknown. Malik stopped short, his stomach turning. Marcus looked back. What's wrong? Malik showed him the screen. Marcus stared for a second, then back toward the rooftops. You think that was about Crane? I don't know, Malik said quietly, but we don't have time to figure it out. They kept moving, ducking into an abandoned storefront Marcus had scoped out days ago. Deja was already online by the time they powered up an old laptop and connected to her through a proxy. Her voice came through the speaker, low and urgent. I'm uploading your files now, but Malik, I checked something else. She paused. What? The footage Crane gave you, some of it's real, but some is doctored. Deepfake level stuff. Very slick edits. Someone wanted you to find that drive. And someone wanted you to believe Crane was your savior. Malik's head spun. Wait, are you saying Crane set us up? No, Deja said. I'm saying he's being used just like you. There's someone else pulling strings. Marcus exhaled slowly, backing away from the laptop. It's bigger than Crane. Way bigger. Malik sat down, trying to steady himself. It all made sense now. The convenient timing, the guilt, the dramatic reappearance. Crane had been a distraction. The real puppet master was still out there, still watching. Then another email came through. Anonymous. No subject. No body. Just a video attachment. They clicked it. It opened with surveillance footage inside a luxury apartment. Grainy at first, then clear. Vix, Crane, and Malik's father. Malik's heart dropped. They were all sitting at the same table, talking, laughing. It wasn't years ago. The timestamp was 2 months back. Marcus' voice was barely a whisper. Your dad, he knew. Malik couldn't speak. He watched the screen as his father slid a folder across the table to Vix, nodded, then stood and shook Crane's hand. It was a business deal. It wasn't about justice. It was about protecting assets. The room spun. Deja tried to break the silence. Malik, are you okay? He stood up slowly, face pale. He lied to me. My whole life, he's been preaching change, philanthropy. He funds social causes while signing deals with the same people who destroy lives. Marcus grabbed Malik by the shoulder. They didn't just frame you. They've been grooming you. You were part of their image management. The good son story. The charitable face. And now you're a threat because you broke their script. Malik stepped back, shaking. This wasn't about Amir. It was about me. All along. The door to the storefront creaked. Everyone froze. Marcus pulled out a pocket knife. Useless against what was probably out there, but it was all they had. Then, a voice called softly through the door. It's me, Deja. They opened the door fast and yanked her inside. She was out of breath, clearly having run the last few blocks. I didn't want to risk another connection. They were tracing my IP. I came in person. She handed Malik a burner phone. We're almost ready to drop the files to 3 major outlets. But we need your approval. Once it's out, there's no going back. Malik nodded, still processing everything. Before we do, I need to find him. My father. I want to look him in the eye and ask why. Marcus looked uneasy. That's dangerous. So is everything else. Deja hesitated and pulled out a slip of paper. He's at the conference center downtown. Private gala. Invite only, but I hacked the guest list. The decision was made. Malik was going. As they stepped back into the night, the city felt different again. But this time, not because of fear. It was resolve. Malik wasn't running anymore. He was hunting. He walked through the crowd outside the gala with confidence, dressed in a borrowed suit that still smelled like dry cleaning. Marcus stayed outside, Deja watching from a surveillance van with a live stream from hidden cams. Inside the ballroom, chandeliers glowed like spotlights on a stage. Laughter, toasts, the sound of wealth pretending innocence. And there he was, standing by the bar, drink in hand, shaking hands with politicians and media moguls. His father. Malik didn't hesitate. He walked straight up, their eyes locking. His father's smile froze. Malik. What a surprise. No, Malik said calmly. You're the surprise. The silence between them was 1,000 pounds. I know everything. His father's eyes narrowed. You think you do. But you're still a child playing at Revolution. You have no idea what you're undoing. I know enough to expose it. You expose this, and it's not just me who falls. You destroy programs, livelihoods, charities, things that help people. Malik leaned in. No, you built them to buy silence. But I'm not for sale. Before his father could respond, Malik pressed a button on the burner phone. Deja's voice came through his earpiece. It's Liv. Across the ballroom, phones buzzed. Screens lit up. A storm was beginning. And in the center of it, Malik stood quietly, his truth finally louder than their lies. But just as he turned to leave, a new message popped up on Deja's screen. From an encrypted source. Untraceable. Nice move. Now watch what happens next. Because the game wasn't over. Someone even higher had just entered the board. The room was unraveling fast. Guests clutched their phones, watching as the leaked files flooded news apps and social platforms in real time. Videos, contracts, recordings, years of behind-the-scenes corruption, backroom deals, and the faces behind them. Malik's father, once the face of quiet philanthropy and progress, was now caught in a storm of truth. People whispered, moved away from him like he carried something contagious. The weight of reputation collapsed around him in a matter of seconds. Malik didn't wait for the fallout. He pushed through the crowd, heart racing. Outside, Marcus met him on the steps, his face a mix of pride and disbelief. "You actually did it," he muttered. But Malik wasn't celebrating. "It's not over. Someone else is pulling strings. Someone bigger." They didn't speak as they walked quickly to the van where Deja was already trying to track the encrypted message. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, screens flashing code and searches. Then she paused. "I got something." She turned the screen toward them. A name popped up, one neither of them expected. Senator Grayson Hart. He wasn't just a silent investor behind the scenes, he was the architect. Malik's father had just been a shield. Hart funded the surveillance programs, pushed for policy changes, quietly backed police department expansions, and covered tracks through media and donations. He had been the quiet hand behind everything, including the deal that sacrificed Amir to protect the status quo. Malik stared at the name for a long second. He was at the gala. "Yes," Deja said quietly, "and he left 10 minutes ago." Marcus already had the car running. "We can still catch him." As they sped through the city streets, the adrenaline was back. This wasn't just about revenge now. This was about stopping something that was still active, still growing. Hart hadn't just manipulated the system. He was the system in many ways. Taking him down would shake the very foundation of what held the city together. They caught up to him just as his SUV pulled into an underground parking garage beneath a luxury high-rise. Malik and Marcus slipped in quietly, following him from a distance. He walked with confidence, talking calmly on the phone, unaware he was being tailed. They followed him to the private elevator. Before he could swipe his keycard, Malik stepped out of the shadows. Hart turned, caught off guard. His face remained eerily calm. "Well, you're faster than I gave you credit for." Marcus flanked him. "You knew we'd come." Hart nodded. "Of course. You think you're the first to try to unmask the machine? I've been doing this longer than you've been alive." Malik stepped closer. "You manipulated my father. You orchestrated arrests, bribed judges, buried people." Hart didn't flinch. "And I kept the city running. You think your public outrage changes that? The moment this blows over, another wave takes its place. You'll be forgotten." But this time, Malik wasn't backing down. Not if the people you silence start speaking. He pulled out a small recording device, live streaming everything to Deja's network. Hart glanced at it, then smiled. "You really think this ends with me in handcuffs?" As he reached into his coat, Marcus lunged, knocking him backward. Something clattered to the ground, a burner phone. No weapon. But the screen was active. It had just sent a text. Deja's voice buzzed in Malik's earpiece. "Guys, you need to get out." That message triggered a system-wide data wipe. He's covering his tracks. Malik stared at Hart. "You planned this." Hart's voice was steady. "You think I didn't expect you to find me? I let you. You needed someone to blame. Now you'll never know who really ran the show." Malik grabbed him by the collar. "Then tell me. Now." Hart's eyes sparkled with something too calm. "You've already met her." Before Malik could press further, distant sirens began echoing through the parking garage. Police. Maybe not the ones Hart paid, but it didn't matter now. He was going to be dragged into light whether he liked it or not. As they stood there, the elevator dinged behind them. To everyone's shock, Malik's father stepped out. The silence was heavy. Hart smiled wider. "Ah." The final act. Malik turned slowly, locking eyes with the man who raised him. You knew where to find him. His father's voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm still your father, Malik, but this is bigger than me. Bigger than all of us." "You sold us out," Malik said. "I tried to survive," he replied, "and I tried to protect you. That's the only truth I have left." Marcus stepped forward. "And now?" His father looked tired. "Now maybe it's time someone else rewrites the rules." He reached into his coat and pulled out a flash drive. Deja confirmed in Malik's ear. He's got the final piece. Everything Hart tried to delete. All the backups. It's real. Malik looked at them both, breath shaky. Why now? His father's eyes welled slightly. Because I saw what you did with nothing. I had everything and I did nothing. The police arrived seconds later, but it didn't matter. The evidence was already being broadcast. Hart tried to resist, to spin a narrative of lies and misdirection, but the flood of public outrage was too strong. Malik's name cleared, Emir's story reclaimed, and the city, finally, was watching. But even in victory, Malik felt hollow. That night, he stood alone on the rooftop of the same building where everything had started. Deja joined him quietly, handing him a coffee. You okay? Malik nodded. Just thinking. Everyone wore a mask, even the ones I loved. Deja looked out over the city, and now I take mine off, he said. For good. She smiled. You didn't just expose them, Malik. You changed something. He sipped the coffee, the warmth grounding him. Let's hope it stays changed. As she walked away, his phone buzzed. A new message. No sender. No signature. This story isn't over. Just flipped to the next page. Malik stared at the screen, a chill creeping down his spine. The war might have ended, but the game had only just begun. The message on Malik's phone kept flashing for a moment before fading into black. His fingers hovered over the screen, but he didn't reply. He didn't need to. Whoever sent it knew exactly what they were doing, leaving a door open. All morning, a challenge, maybe even a promise. But for now, Malik was done chasing ghosts. He finally felt the weight lift off his shoulders, not completely, but enough to let him breathe. The days that followed were chaotic. Headlines exploded. Billionaire's son unmasks political conspiracy. Senator Hart tied to corruption scandal. Tech mogul cooperates in historic testimony. News anchors, bloggers, podcasters, and influencers all scrambled for a piece of the story. Malik's name was everywhere, but not as a suspect this time, as a survivor, as a fighter, as someone who risked everything to shine light on the darkest corners of power. Malik's father resigned from every board and foundation he was connected to, released a public statement accepting responsibility for his part in Hart's operation, and then quietly disappeared from public life. Some people speculated he moved to Europe. Others said he joined a rehabilitation center somewhere upstate. Malik never confirmed it. For him, the chapter with his father had closed. Not with rage, but with acceptance. Sometimes healing doesn't come through apologies. Sometimes it's just choosing to move forward. Mark has started a new nonprofit focused on community policing and justice reform. With the video evidence, community testimonies, and Malik's backing, it picked up momentum quickly. Donations came flooding in, not just from everyday people, but from unexpected places. Tech CEOs, former law enforcers, even a few disillusioned politicians. Malik didn't want the spotlight, but he did speak at the launch. His message was clear and simple. We don't need to burn the system. We need to build one that listens, one that protects everyone equally. And for that, we need all of you. Deja returned to her world of digital activism, but this time she didn't hide behind a screen. Her face became familiar online. She ran live streams, hosted town halls, and trained others in data literacy and digital rights. She also quietly started helping families of those who had been wrongly arrested or silenced. One of her biggest focuses? Emir's story. Thanks to the evidence Malik and Deja exposed, Emir's case was reopened. His name was cleared. Official statements apologized for the mistake, but Malik knew that wouldn't bring back what had been stolen. Still, he stood at Emir's grave one rainy morning, a folded article in his coat pocket, the headline reading, "The one they buried, the one who fought back." He placed it beneath the flowers and whispered, "We're not done, but we're louder now. You should have been here for this." The detective, Officer Rollins, the one who first arrested Malik, resigned after facing internal investigations. No criminal charges were filed, but public pressure forced him out. Malik never reached out to him. He didn't need to. Sometimes justice isn't about revenge. Sometimes it's about making sure the next person doesn't have to go through what you did. Weeks turned into months. Life slowly returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after everything. Malik didn't move back into the mansion. He sold it. Instead, he stayed in the city, living modestly, investing in startups that prioritized impact over profit, mentoring young activists, and quietly funding scholarships for underprivileged students who wanted to study law and journalism. People often asked him why he didn't run for office or start a movement in his own name. He always gave the same answer. This was never about being seen. It was about seeing clearly. In private moments, he still had questions. There were names in Hart's files he hadn't recognized, connections left unexplained. The anonymous message still haunted him now and then. And once, while checking his emails, he noticed a familiar symbol in the corner of a file, a small triangle with a circle inside it. The same one that had appeared on Hart's encrypted messages. Someone was still out there, watching, waiting. But for now, Malik chose peace. Not ignorance, but peace. He'd fought, bled, and lost parts of himself in this journey. He needed time to be human again, to feel joy without guilt, to trust without fear. He met someone outside the chaos, someone who didn't care about his last name, just the way he listened when she talked. They walked the streets together, shared quiet breakfasts, and sometimes just watched the city breathe from rooftops. He learned that justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in late-night phone calls between estranged families. Sometimes it looks like a kid smiling on their first day of school, funded by someone they'll never meet. Sometimes it's just knowing you didn't stay silent. Looking back, Malik realized the biggest twist wasn't that he was a billionaire's son. It was that he became his own man in a world that expected him to follow someone else's rules. The system tried to break him. Instead, he exposed it. And in doing so, he discovered not just the truth about others, but the strength within himself. If anyone ever asked him what he'd want people to remember, he'd keep it simple. Don't judge by what you see. Ask what you're missing. And never forget, real power isn't about control. It's about choice. The final shot of the story fades out on Malik, sitting on the steps of a community center he helped build. Kids are laughing inside. The mural behind him reads, "Truth is the seed. Justice is the bloom." He looks out at the street, watches people pass, and for the first time in a long while, he smiles. Not because everything is perfect, but because he knows he helped make something better. And that's where the story ends, for now.